So many weeks ago I did a video talking about the top 4 best ways in which you should spend your stimulus check if you do in fact qualify for it and if you received it. And if you haven't seen that video yet, the link will be down below in the description. You can check that video out. I give some pretty decent points, and even if you didn't get a stimulus check or qualified for it, still a nice way to learn how you should spend $1,200. As far as the amount of stimulus checks already sent out, the IRS has already distributed more than 128 million checks and paid over $218 billion as of early May. So although we're approaching 2,000 subscribers and I greatly appreciate all of the ongoing support, I greatly appreciate it. And if you're not subscribed yet, I don't know what you're doing, be sure that you are subscribed. I post videos every single week. Be sure that you click the notification bell as well, so you're notified every single time I make a new video. We haven't necessarily reached every single American, all 330 million Americans in the United States. So that means not everyone was necessarily prioritizing that money, and it might have went to some unnecessary things, some instant gratification. So how are Americans really spending their $1,200 stimulus check? And for couples, of course, that would be $2,400. Where is that money going? So in this video, we're going to be looking at the data that has come in. We have found out where that money is going, what industries and areas are seeing an increase in revenue and sales. We're going to be looking at it in today's video. So interestingly enough, for some context, when many Americans received a stimulus check during the Great Recession in 2008-2009, at least a portion of it was spent on cars. According to research by the American Economic Association, during the 2008 stimulus program, up to 90% of the rise in durable goods spending had to do with auto spending. At that time, the government paid an individual between $300 and $600, and couples received between $600 and $1,200. The government paid $300 per child as well. It was also found that people who use their stimulus checks also were prone to smash the like button. Be sure to give the video a big thumbs up, smash that like button. It'll just help with the YouTube algorithm so more people can see videos just like this and learn exactly how people are spending their stimulus checks. So now we're dealing with several times the amount of money here. Individuals are receiving $1,200, and don't get me wrong, many people are prioritizing their use of their stimulus check. When lawmakers passed the CARES Act and stimulus checks were sent to Americans, many Americans did spend that money to keep a roof over their head and put food on the table. So for those who don't know, the $290 billion that was allocated for stimulus checks, that's direct payments into the hands of Americans, the program allowed $1,200 for people making less than $75,000 and couples making less than $150,000, and it also paid $500 per child. According to economists at Columbia University, Northwestern University, the University of Chicago, and the University of Southern Denmark, they said, quote, given the size of the 2020 stimulus checks, we might have expected large impacts on categories like automobile spending, electronics, appliances, and home furnishings. They went on to say, quote, instead, it seems that individuals are catching up with rent and bill payments as well as engaging in spending on food, personal care, and non-durables. So a study was done focused on people's savings and spending habits. The study was done on 1,600 people who received their stimulus checks by April 21st. So the researchers found several different points as far as where that money went. So we're going to be running through that list right here. So point number 1, in the first 3 days after the stimulus check receipt, spending increased between $50 to $75 a piece on expenditures like food and non-durable goods, a category that includes supplies like laundry detergent, pens, paper, and other items with a shorter lifespan. They found during that same time the purchase of durable goods increased by $20 in those first 3 days. This category includes cars, appliances, furniture, and other things meant for longer use. On the whole, households spent around 1/4 to 1/3 of their stimulus check money within 10 days of receipt. If people had less than $500 in their account, they went through almost half of their money within 10 days. People with over $3,000 in their accounts had essentially no extra spending after getting their check. And finally, a person who made less than $1,000 a month was twice as likely to spend money after getting their check, and this was compared to someone making at least $5,000. And researchers noted, according to the study, that this fits a historical pattern from past stimulus programs. A Columbia Business School professor said that in the wake of stimulus bills during 2008 and 2001, households with either larger declines in net worth or households with lower levels of assets also tend to respond more strongly to stimulus checks. But they did also note that it's too soon to see what stimulus checks do for families and the economy as a whole. They said, quote, what we can tell for a fact is consumer behavior is different compared to their 2008 stimulus spending habits. Many Americans have spent their stimulus checks on mortgages, rents, and groceries. But there's also evidence that Americans are spending their checks on non-essentials like clothing, toys, and electronics. During Walmart's earnings call, CEO Doug McMillon said that calling it relief spending as it was heavily influenced by stimulus dollars, leading to sales increases in categories such as apparel, televisions, video games, sporting goods, and toys. Target and Best Buy also saw a dramatic increase in demand for discretionary goods as the CARES Act money started to hit people in mid-April. Apple also saw an uptick in demand for its products across the board, according to CEO Tim Cook. In fact, Target sales have surged in the most recent quarter, and this was driven initially by online shoppers who stockpiled food and other essentials to brace for coronavirus lockdowns, and more recently by rising demand for items like electronics and apparel as states have begun to lift stay-at-home orders. At Walmart and Target, shoppers bought more TVs, electronics, gaming equipment, and apparel, and Walmart also saw increased demand for adult-sized bikes. And it was found that at Best Buy, customers used their stimulus checks to buy computing and gaming equipment, according to the company's CEO, Corey Berry, and that was said on the earnings call. Berry said, quote, "Like many other retailers, we saw sales benefit during the last 3 weeks of the quarter as customers undoubtedly chose to spend some of their government stimulus money on the products and services we provide." And parents started becoming teachers, according to McMillan. He said, quote, "Adult bicycles started selling out as parents started to join the kids. An overlapping trend then started emerging relating to DIY and home-related activities. And interestingly, consumers also started to buy sewing machines and bandanas to make their own face masks." According to Walmart spokesman Randy Hargrove, he said, quote, "Before the checks were issued on April 15th, there was not as much demand for discretionary goods at Walmart." He added that sales increased towards the end of the quarter. Target also experienced a rapid increase in traffic and sales for discretionary goods, driven by the distribution of stimulus checks. CEO Brian Cornell said that on the company's Wednesday earnings call, "We certainly saw an uptick as we reported starting on April 15th, as those checks arrived across America." And iPhone maker Apple also saw an increase in demand. Cook said on the company's April 30th earnings call, "A part of it is just due to our new products, but another part of it is due to the stimulus programs taking effect in April." But on the flip side, we've also seen a lot of non-essential clothing retailers such as Nordstrom, Nike, and Gap. They've taken a large hit. They've been forced to close many stores across the country, and as a result, they have been forced to give consumers online deals comparable to Cyber Monday. And this is quite interesting. There's also been a distinction between people who received their stimulus payments in mid-April when they were initially distributed, and a difference between people who have been receiving them more recently. The people that got their money during the initial distribution did tend to spend that money on more essential items like groceries. And in the next wave of payments, which occurred towards the end of April, it was found that more people used the funds for everyday means, such as ordering more food delivery and takeout and gas. And according to analysts, if Americans were to receive another round of stimulus checks, and we've already covered the HEROES Act twice on this channel, once with the initial announcement, and then I did a second video covering an update. If Americans were to receive these stimulus checks that were proposed in the HEROES Act, it was found that Americans would most likely use these checks for the same purposes as well. And interestingly, the Best Buy CEO said that, quote, "The impact of current to potential future government stimulus actions is something that the company will keep an eye on for the remainder of the year. But time will tell as far as how people will use all of their stimulus money." It was found that spending did trail off after 10 days of receipt, and people might be holding on to that money just in case to see what the future may hold. We just have to wonder, will these $1,200 stimulus checks be enough to spur enough consumer spending to fuel economic recovery? On Wednesday, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell said that 40% of people in households making less than $40,000 per year in February lost their jobs in March, and when April's rent came due, nearly 1/3 of renters struggled to pay it. So I'm very curious to hear. Comment down below in the comment section. Tell me, did you receive a stimulus check? Were you eligible for it? If you did receive it, where did that money go? Did you allocate it towards things that are prioritized, or did you throw that money out right down the tubes? And even if you don't qualify for it, and even if you did not receive it, how would you spend $1,200 in an emergency scenario like this? Would you put some of it away? Would you save some of it? Would you invest it into what could possibly be a risky stock market right now? Or would it all go to basic necessities? Tell me down below in the comments. I'm curious to hear. But I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, be sure to give it a big thumbs up, smash that like button. And if you'd like to see more videos from my channel, I post videos every single week covering business, finance, entrepreneurship, mindset, strategy, and tips and tricks from my own experience. I post videos every single week without fail. You're not going to miss one. And be sure that you are notified every single time I make a new video. The way you do that is you hit that little notification bell. That will just give you a signal every single time I make a new video. See you in the next one.